I used to think I was bad at relationships, not unlucky, not inexperienced, bad. Like there was something fundamentally wrong with the way I loved people. Because no matter how hard I tried, no matter how patient I was, no matter how much I adjusted myself, it never seemed to be enough. This relationship looked good from the outside. That's important because everyone loved it. Friends said I was lucky. Family said I'd finally found someone solid. Even strangers would comment on how calm, how mature, how healthy it seemed. And for a long time, I believed them. We didn't fight loudly. There were no slammed doors, like no screaming matches, no dramatic breakups. Just conversations, quiet ones. The kind where I always walked away feeling confused. At the beginning, I was confident. I knew what I liked, what I needed, what mattered to me. I spoke up, I asked questions. I trusted my instincts. But slowly, that confidence started to shrink. Every time I brought something up, it somehow turned into my fault. Not aggressively, not cruelly, just subtly. If I felt hurt, I was reading too much into it. If I felt dismissed, I was being sensitive. If I asked for reassurance, I was creating problems where there weren't any. I started apologizing. A lot. At first, it was for small things, misunderstandings, bad timing, starting a conversation the wrong way. Then it became bigger things, apologizing for my tone, my timing, my feelings. Eventually, I was apologizing just for feeling anything at all. I remember one night in particular, we were sitting on the couch. Nothing dramatic had happened. No argument, no raised voices. Just silence. I finally said, I feel like I'm always doing something wrong. But I don't know what it is. They looked at me calmly, almost kindly, and said, well, if you feel that way, maybe that's something you need to work on. That sentence stayed with me because it sounded reasonable, helpful even, but something about it felt off. After that, I stopped bringing things up as much, not because everything was fine, but because it felt safer not to. I started editing myself before speaking, before reacting, before even feeling. I'd replay conversations in my head, asking myself, was that too much? Was that unfair? Was I being difficult? I began to believe I was the common denominator. After all, they were calm, collected, unbothered, and I was the one constantly questioning myself. Friends noticed I was quieter, less animated, more hesitant. When they asked if everything was okay, I said yes, because I thought that was what mature people did. But inside, I felt like I was disappearing. The strange thing is, there's no single moment where I could say, that's when it became bad. It was a slow erosion, like water wearing down stone. So gradual you don't notice it happening. Until one day. You don't recognize yourself anymore? The realization didn't come during a fight. It came during a quiet moment. I was alone, doing something simple, and I felt relieved. Not excited, not happy, relieved. It scared me. I started imagining what it would feel like to leave, not because I wanted freedom, but because I wanted peace. Even then, I hesitated, because how do you justify leaving something that looks fine? There was no villain, no obvious abuse, no dramatic betrayal, just a constant feeling that I was failing. The final conversation was calm, respectful, almost detached. I, when I said I felt smaller than I used to be, they said, I never asked you to change. And that's when it clicked. They didn't have to ask because I'd been doing it voluntarily, trying to become easier, quieter, more agreeable. Fireworks without a scene, just a quiet ending. And here's the part I didn't expect. Once I left, the fog lifted. I didn't suddenly become perfect, but I stopped apologizing for existing. I stopped questioning every emotion. I laughed louder, spoke faster, took up space again. And that's when I realized something important. I wasn't bad at relationships. I was just in one that slowly convinced me I was. Sometimes the most damaging relationships aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet ones, the ones that look healthy, while quietly teaching you to disappear.